According to the Necronomicon, to resurrect the dead...
Hello everybody, my name is Girl Neko and welcome back to Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony. After preparing the effigy, burn this Necronomicon to ashes. Use caution, be mindful of carbon monoxide poisoning.
Then, did she seek out a candle so she could burn the book?
That's right. There's nothing to start a fire with in Angie's lab. So she went to go get a candle from one of the empty rooms.
And that's when the culprit attacked her.
That's why there was dried blood underfloor.
Which means Angie was attacked in the same room the seance was held. Bravo, Himiko. Well done for choosing that room for the seance. If we hadn't done the seance in that room, then Tenko's murder would have been in another room. If that happened, no one would have discovered Angie's bloodstain under the floorboards.
That's right. Shuichi and I only checked under the floorboards where Tenko died.
Yep, it's all thanks to Himiko for choosing the same room as Angie. This must be Atua's will. Or maybe the power of magic.
It's neither. I just picked one.
Hold on. You're all acting as though you've proven that as fact already. You claim Angie was murdered in the empty room, and then moved to the lab? Then how do you explain the large amount of blood in the lab? It may be possible to carry a body, but blood cannot be moved.
I think she was still alive after the attack in the empty room. She was killed after she was carried to her lab.
That means the culprit attacked her twice. I have evidence of that. That's right.
This is it! The fatal wound was a cut to the back of her neck from a katana. But she also showed signs of blunt force trauma, and I think I know why. After Angie was knocked unconscious in the empty room, she was killed in her lab.
I see. So that puddle of blood is from the killing blow. Ha! It's all clear now. Angie was attacked in the empty room, carried to her lab, and it was there that the culprit finished her off!
All clear. This is all clear. What are you all talking about? All clear? What is all clear? What are you? All clear?
Are you okay?
What are you all? You what? What are? I will not fear. I will not back down.
What? Huh?
Korekio, calm yourself.
What? 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 What?
Their words are all...
What? There is no meaning to any of them. What?
You must teach these ignorant children a lesson.
What the fuck?
Yes, you're right. Okay, I'll teach them.
Oh, are you okay
What are
there?
you mumbling about? You're giving me the goddamn willies!
Not yet. Nothing is clear at all.
Are you okay there? Because I think you're cracking up.
It's full of doubts, of mysteries, of a dense, impenetrable fog! Nothing is clear at all!
Oh my god. Kyo is not looking okay. Why is he wearing lipstick?
Angie was attacked in the empty room first. And then carried into the research lab? Impossible! Impossible! That's nothing but a delusion! You intend to poison our minds with your delusions?
I'm so
It's no
confused right
delusion.
now.
Angie's 2 external wounds tell the story.
Oh, come on, don't do this, please. No, 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 don't do this.
After she was struck in the empty room, she was carried to the art research lab and then killed.
You say the culprit carried Angie's body? And not a single drop of blood fell? The hallway and empty room had no bloodstains. Even if you wipe them down later, there'd still be traces of evidence left behind. But there was no evidence anywhere, was there, Shuichi?
I'll cut through your words. There was evidence left at the scene. The bloody tape under Angie's body.
What?
It was wrapped around her head to stop the bleeding while she was being carried.
Bloody tape? Gonta didn't notice at all.
It was under the body. It's most likely evidence the culprit should have gotten rid of. But since it was hidden, the culprit didn't notice and failed to dispose of it.
It must have fallen as the fatal blow was dealt, and ended up under her body.
It must have been Atua who did that for us.
What? Atua? How long are you going to keep that up?
Now we know most of the mystery behind Angie's murder.
I'm convinced there's only one person who could have killed Angie. It has to be you! It's you, Kyo. You killed Angie.
What the fuck? So it's true!
Well, that was obvious. Such a boring, obvious answer.
You killed both of them. Why did you kill them?
In terms of pure logic, only one victim was necessary to win.
Why? Why you killed them both?
I think one of the murders was an accident.
An accident?
That's right. It wasn't part of the plan.
Huh? Which one?
The murder that was an accident. Oh, whoops.
I was wrong!
I fucked up.
That's it! Angie's murder was an accident.
What? Tenko wasn't accident?
That's right. Kyo originally planned to kill someone with a seesaw trick. But while he was making preparations in the empty room, Angie walked in. So he decided to kill her in order to keep her from talking.
She just happened to walk in on the culprit setting up and was killed.
Then, he should have just stopped there. Once he killed Angie, there was no reason for him to kill Tenko!
You only needed to kill one for this game. Killing 2 is pointless. If you get bonus points for killing more, then sure. Otherwise, it leaves more clues behind.
Why, Kyo? Why you kill 2 of our friends?
What is it? What on earth are you talking about? No, I'm not the culprit. So, why is everyone looking at me like I am? Why? Why are they? Why is it? Calm yourself, Korekio.
I am...
Yes. You mustn't raise your voice. You mustn't stutter. You mustn't lose composure. You mustn't become flustered. You mustn't waver. Look at their horrid faces. This sorry lot is not worth agonizing over.
I'm so confused.
Right. Yeah. You're right.
There he goes again. What the hell's wrong with him?
Yeah.
It almost seems like he's talking with someone.
Someone? He's just talking to himself. And why the hell is he wearing lipstick? lipstick.
No matter how loudly you protest, this is a trivial matter. I will never acknowledge your allegations. Not a single one of them. For you see, there is no evidence that I killed Angie. No, I will not acknowledge it. I will only acknowledge facts, true events. I won't acknowledge fiction, mystery. I won't acknowledge your deductions or guesses. Well said. Good job, Correcchio. Yes, thanks.
Creeps me the fuck out!
Yeah. No evidence. There's no evidence that he killed Angie?
You're wrong. There is evidence.
What? You do realize bluffs like that won't work, yes?
The weapon that was used to knock Angie unconscious in the empty room. That weapon tells us the whole story, Kyo.
That's not possible. I think you may have misunderstood. Apologize. Come on, apologize. 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 Come on. Apologize. 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 Apologize.
Seriously, what the hell's happening?
I have no idea what's happening with Kyo. But I know what weapon he used on Angie. I have to prove it to him. Oh god, I just... Oh, that is really fucking creepy.
Yeah, I'm not the culprit. So I have nothing to confess. I have nothing to admit. You are simply wrong. Yes, I'm not the culprit. So I have nothing to confess. I have nothing to admit. You are... Why must you force your delusions on us? Your logic. That's merely a delusion. Well said, Correcchio. To continue this debate is meaningless. Why must you force your delusions on us? Your logic. That's merely a delusion. Well said, Correcchio. To continue this debate is meaningless. Why must you force your delusions on us? Your logic. That's merely a delusion. Well said, Correcchio. To continue this debate...
Jeez.
I told you I am not the culprit. So why are you looking at me like that? You're all wrong, not me! Correcchio speaks the truth. Such a sorry lot. Apologize. 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 I told you I am not the culprit. So why are you looking at me like that? You're all wrong, not me! Correcchio speaks the truth. Such a sorry lot.
Error? Why was there a bunch of errors, and why is there errors?
Apologize. Apologize. I told you I am not the culprit. So why are you looking at me like that? You're all wrong, not me! Correcchio speaks the truth. Such a sorry lot. Apologize. 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 I told you I am not the culprit. So why are you looking at me like that? You have no proof that Correcchio is the killer.
It ends here!
What the fuck?
Kyo hit Angie with the same floorboard used in the seesaw trick.
What was that last frame? Oh my god. Correcchio has just lost all of his marbles.
I see. And how do you know the floorboard was the murder weapon?
There was a small patch of dried blood on the underside of the floorboard.
Angie's blood?
blood that spattered there when the culprit struck Angie with the board. But that's not the only evidence that she was hit with that floorboard. There's also the bloodstain under the floor to consider. The floorboard must not have been in place at the time of the...
Oh, for that to be there, the floorboard must not have been in place at the time of the attack.
Good point. Had the floorboard been in place, her blood wouldn't have splattered beneath it.
Keo's earlier confession is further evidence that the floorboard was used.
How?
If the weapon used to hit Angie is the floorboard from the seesaw trick,
It means the culprit knew about the seesaw, so the same person killed Tenko and Angie.
Jeez.
I believe that while Keo was setting up the seesaw, he was holding the board when Angie walked in.
And he cold-cocked her with a floorboard.
all you can do now is accept it. You even confessed to Tenko's murder already.
So it's true. This is the truth.
Oh my god, Kia's like... Kia, you're not looking so good.
Looks like we're almost at the end. All right, Shuichi, I'll leave the finale to you. Bring down the house.
Shuichi, please, put an end to this. For Angie and Tenko's sake. End this class trial.
I understand. I'll go over everything one more time. Keo, I want you to confess. No, I will force you to confess.
Okay, let's see. Who is the culprit with the saw in the empty room? What weapon knocked Angie unconscious? What was compressing the injury on Angie's head while she was carried? What weapon killed Angie? Whose effigy was stabbed with the katana? Why would you stab Kaede? The handle of the spinning katana. When Angie's body was found, who unlocked the door? What object did Tenko rest her forehead on during the seance? What weapon did the culprit set up on the iron cage? Who besides Kokichi was responsible for extinguishing the candles? Nope. How is the culprit able to move around in the darkness during the seance? Nope. When the culprit approached the cage, how did the magic circle get erased? Nope. Whoops. Okay. Was the culprit able to move around in the darkness during the seance? When the culprit approached the cage, how did the magic circle get erased?
This is the truth of the case! Let's look back at the first murder. It was late last night. The culprit was in the empty room on the 4th floor. The culprit was preparing the seance murder they had planned. To use the floorboard as a seesaw, they had to cut the crosspiece supporting it. The plan was to make the same preparations for all 3 empty rooms. This would divert suspicion away from the culprit and whoever picked a room. To cut the crosspieces, they needed a saw. I imagine they got one from the warehouse. They were planning to cut the crosspieces in all 3 rooms. However, when the culprit was working on the middle room, the unexpected happened. Angie walked into that room and saw the culprit making their preparations. She needed some fire for the ritual and had gone to the room for a candle. At that point, the culprit had not finished the setup and was just cutting crosspieces. Angie might not have concluded that it was tied to some kind of murder plan. But now that Angie had seen it, the culprit couldn't use the seesaw trick. Any other person might have just given up, but not our culprit. The culprit took the floorboard they loosened and struck the unsuspecting Angie in the head. The culprit did not want to give up on their plan and had to improvise. They wrapped duct tape around Angie's injury to stop the bleeding. Then they picked up her unconscious body and carried her to a research lab. While she was unconscious, the culprit hurried to tie up this loose end. But because they were in a hurry, they made a crucial oversight. They didn't notice the duct tape had peeled off and was under Angie's body. Without that evidence, we may never have figured out the culprit's trick. Carrying the supplies they needed, the culprit returned to the ultimate art lab. Locked the front door from inside. And took out the katana they brought from their own lab. They then stabbed Angie in the back of the neck, finally killing her. Then, to further confuse us, the culprit attempted to make a locked room mystery. First, they used rope from the warehouse and hung 4 effigies upside down. There were 2 reasons for this: to overwhelm the room with an occult atmosphere, and the other was the key to locking the room. The culprit stuck the katana into Kaede's effigy near the rear entrance. And spun the effigy around to twist up the rope. After enough turns, the culprit let go and headed for the rear door. Once released, the effigy began spinning, and the gold leaf katana with it. The handle of the katana then hit the sliding lock, locking the door. A difficult trick, but remember that the lock was so loose it moved at the slightest touch. The culprit also would have had the opportunity to attempt it many times. Once complete, the door was locked, but the duct tape was left behind. Perhaps the culprit noticed it, but by that point, it was too late. The room was sealed. There was no way for them to get back inside. Then, this morning, we opened up the room and discovered Angie's body. But the culprit wasn't finished. They wanted one more murder. To do that, they manipulated us into performing this seance. Of the 3 empty rooms, the middle one was chosen for the seance. I was invited by Kokichi to take Kibo's place in the seance. Tenko volunteered to be the medium, but she never imagined it would get her killed. To perform the seance, the culprit claimed they needed something for Tenko. A small stone that Himiko had brought from the courtyard. Tenko, at the culprit's request, bowed her head until it was touching the stone. That position was instrumental in making sure the murder went as planned. Next, Kokichi and I placed the iron cage over Tenko, in the middle of the magic circle. The culprit then volunteered to drape the white cloth over the iron cage. We didn't realize it at the time, but that was a deliberate decision by the culprit. They needed to set up the murder weapon that was used to kill Tenko. While they were covering the cage with a cloth, they secretly placed the sickle. Finally, 4 of us placed the wooden statue on top of the cage. The culprit used the weight of the statue to keep the murder weapon in place. After the preparations were complete, we began the seance. In complete darkness, we each stood in one corner and sang the Caged Child song. When the song finished, the soul of the dead was supposed to enter the medium, but our culprit had another plan: to commit a murder in the darkness. Right after we started singing, the culprit began making their way toward Tenko. It would have been quite difficult to do in total darkness, but our culprit had a guide. They used the lines of the magic circle drawn with salt. The culprit felt for the salt and used it to guide them along. And when the culprit reached the center of the circle, they found the floorboard that had its crosspiece cut off the night before. then lifted up their foot and stomped down hard on the floorboard. The floorboard lifted up like a seesaw and pushed Tenko's body up toward the ceiling of the cage. Tenko was stabbed in the back of the neck by the sickle on the top of the cage. She was killed right before our eyes, and we didn't even see it. After committing the crime, the culprit followed the salt back to their corner, finished the ritual, and had us light the candles. We followed the culprit's directions and removed the equipment used for the seance. And discovered Tenko's body. And while we were all focused on the body, the culprit picked up the sickle and dropped it under the floor through the hole in the corner of the room. Ironically, the final step of the murder was unwittingly carried out by us. The culprit had planned the murder so that we would unintentionally destroy some evidence. That evidence was the magic circle that the culprit used to navigate in the dark. However, the culprit didn't know that Kibo had taken a picture. He really saved us. Without that, we wouldn't know what changes were made to the circle. But now we know for certain, and we know the culprit drew the magic circle. Korekio Shinguchi, the ultimate anthropologist. You're the culprit behind these murders.
Damn.
That's where my detective work leads us. It all fits.
Sweet Korekio. There were times when it's necessary to admit defeat. Admit? Yeah. Okay.
So you finally admit you did it.
Unfortunately. Yes. Yes. It's unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate.
Very, very unfortunate, Shuichi.
My one regret, my only regret,
Was not being able to make 100 friends.
What?
100 friends?
Huh?
It was my dream to make 100 friends.
Why didn't you just go on Facebook or some shit?
Oh, it's so unfortunate! I was so close to 100!
What the
What are you
fuck?
talking about? I do not understand a word of this.
I am so
That's a
confused.
buck. Let's vote for this kooky bastard and be done with this already.
Roger that! One voting time coming up!
The heart racing excitement as
The heart racing excitement!
As the blackened and the spotless finally face off.
It's voting time! Now then, it seems the voting has finished. Let's see the result.
Alright.
Who be chosen as the blackened? Will you make the right choice or the dreadfully wrong wrong one!
Well, I think that's all the time I have for this episode, so thank you everybody for watching. I'll see you all next time, and bayonara!